It's such an honour to have my friend Dylan here from Red Cymbals in Australia. Well, they're made in Turkey, but the business is in Australia. I've known Dylan for about 17 years, which is crazy.
That's a fair innings.
And it's amazing because he's here because it was God really, but I asked Dylan if he could come and play drums for me at a concert I was doing at my church here in Taiwan, and he said yes.
I did. I didn't even think about it. It was just like, yep, let's do it.
So anyway, Dylan jumped on a plane and came to Taiwan, and in the process he was like, well, if I'm going to come, then maybe we could run a worship conference as well. So we did that as well, and it was amazing.
It was,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it's so good.
We saw God do amazing things. Yeah. Anyway, I'd love to talk about that a bit as well, but I thought since we're doing this whole things I wish I knew since when I was 20, I thought, well, we both have a history of, we've known each other for 17 years, and what we were back then and what God has done in our lives now has just been such a huge thing. So I thought, wow, we've got to capture this somehow. So anyway, I'm going to kick it off, and I'm just going to say, Dylan, what would you say to 20-year-old Dylan?
That's a very good question. I think in thinking about this earlier, when you said, what would you say to 20-year-old yourself? I think would be prioritize things that are worth prioritizing. I think when I was 20, I wanted to be touring the world, playing the drums in a band. A lot of what I wanted to do was to kind of prove my parents wrong. They said you can't do that, so a lot of it was, well, I'm going to do it. But I don't know. I reckon the coolest thing is I kind of have done that, but not the way that I thought I would do that. But not because not because I wanted to prove my parents wrong, but because I just saw great value in doing what I'm doing now, which is going around playing the drums with people, having real conversations with people, not being fake and not putting on a show so much as just I take cymbals with me wherever I go.
Show them a sample of your cymbals.
So this is a very large cymbal. It might fill up the whole frame, but this is my take with me everywhere cymbal. So I take photos in front of landmarks and things like that. But so yeah, I don't just take this. I take full size ones and we do jams with drummers. So when I was 20, I wanted to tour in a band, playing the drums. And funny thing is, I said that to a friend of mine recently, and they said, well, because I said, I'm a bit of a failure, I never really did what I set out to do. But they were like, you actually are doing that, but just maybe differently than you thought you would do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe the key thing I would say to my 20-year-old self is don't be selfish. Don't make it all about you. Actually make it all about what you can do for other people, how you can encourage, how you can bless. Whereas back when I was 20, it was all about me.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So
it is a bit like that, isn't it? Yeah. We're a bit self-absorbed when we're 20.
Yeah.
Full of dreams, but not really thinking about how I can contribute to society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we think we're full-on adults, but adulting, that really doesn't happen until later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're young adults and good times.
Cool. Dylan, why don't you tell us how Red Cymbals came about? How did you start this company?
So it's a very long story, but to save you from pressing the fast forward button, it probably started, I think, when I made a very big decision to quit teaching. Not quit teaching, but leave the teaching profession. Not for any bad reasons, just so much as I just kept getting this poking of like, it's time to do something different, Dylan. But I didn't feel like I could do anything different, which was the problem. I felt like the big money I was making, well, big-ish money I was making as a teacher, I couldn't sustain myself unless I was doing that. So, but suddenly it got to the point where it was like, I have to I have to finish teaching. I have to move to something else. I didn't know what that was. Cool thing was...
What kind of teacher were you? A high school teacher,
Oh,
right?
yeah, so high school, mostly year 7, year 8, year 9, so junior high.
In a public school and a private school?
Public, and then I went to a Christian school.
Okay.
And there was absolutely nothing wrong with those schools. They were amazing schools.
Yeah.
Amazing people. The students were incredible.
Yeah.
I look back on that time and think, wow, I really love that time of my life. But I'm also very glad to have moved on. But it's so funny. It was like this perfect storm of stuff where I was struggling with depression. I think it even got to the point where I almost wanted to take my own life, that I thought I was useless to anyone. I was no good to my wife. My wife would be better off without me. But thankfully, a couple of people intervened, some really cool people, such as yourself. Because my cousin out of the blue said, hey, you should come to Cambodia. And I'm like, what do I want to go to Cambodia for? That's ludicrous, crazy. And at the same time, I was playing drums with you, and you had a tour organised to Adelaide, which again didn't make sense because it was not a paid tour for anybody. It was a love job.
Yeah.
But I've learned to love jobs because often they turn into something way more than just a paid gig would be. So it wasn't really a gig, it was just like a road trip with some really good people.
Yeah, well, let me talk a bit about Adelaide.
Yeah.
I love this story because I think it's amazing. So I wrote this song, Hope, with our friend Cindy. And that song we wrote for a ministry towards caring for families with people in prison. And we did this, we wrote this song as a theme song for a weekend away that we did. Anyway, I recorded that in my home studio, and we gave a copy. This is back when we had CDs.
Old school.
I gave a copy to every person who came to that weekend away. Anyway, one of the ladies, her daughter lived in Adelaide, and she absolutely loved the song, and she loved my album that I also gave away that weekend. And she was like, oh, when are you going to come to Adelaide? And I'm like, well, if you organise it, I'll be there. And so she did. She organised it, and so she was like, yeah, our church is happy to host you guys. And I was like, I better get a band together.
That's awesome.
I was like, is it just going to be me solo, or should we have a band? I'm like, it'd be better if there was a band. And so then I was just contacting all my muso friends that I've been jamming with church, or like Dylan that I knew from beforehand. And I'm like, this is a love job, right? This is an offering kind of thing. But my thought about it was like when Jesus said to the disciples, go out, don't take a bag, don't take anything with you, just go, and whoever welcomes you, just receive anything that they give you. And so that was kind of the attitude I felt about this gig. And so what really blew my mind was that everybody said yes.
Yeah.
Including Dylan, who was going through a financial situation at the time. But I was I just knew this was a God thing. So I was just like, I know that it doesn't make sense financially, but you just got to trust me. God's going to come through. He's going to do something. And I mean, the gig was amazing. We did one night there, and people were blessed. God healed somebody who just came. She was wearing a moon boot, and then she came that night and she was healed. Like, nobody prayed for her. It's just by her coming.
That's awesome.
Just coming.
A step of faith.
She got healed, and we raised money for the church, and their accountant was blown away. Anyway, so coming back to Dylan.
It's so funny because when you talk about that, and you said someone invited you to come, and you're like, yeah, well, if you set it up, I'll come.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing with the Red Cymbals time and time and time again, and it doesn't make sense because everyone's like, well, hang on, if you're going all the way to Adelaide, or if I'm coming all the way to Taiwan, or if I'm going to anywhere, a big Cambodia I went to recently, in Singapore, everyone would say, well, how are you going to cover your costs? How are you going to cover your expenses? And the funny thing about that tour was, it was right before I started going to Planet Shakers. And again, I was like searching, like, I wasn't disappointed in the church I was in, it was great, but I wanted something more local, and I wanted something that I could really so into as a local person. And it was almost like you guys were like the propaganda team for Planet Shakers or the promotions team, because I drove all the way to Adelaide with Chris, who's like the coolest person alive. And he kept showing me the well and all these different things that were happening in Planet Shakers.
Yeah.
So when you asked before, like as I said, this is a long story, but how we ended up making cymbals was it really started with that, because when I came home, I started looking at, okay, how do we get involved in Planet Shakers Church? But also it opened me up to this idea that you don't have to get paid to do something to be blessed by that or to sustain your business or whatever. And it opened me up to saying, okay, if there's an opportunity to go somewhere, to be an encouragement, be a blessing, to minister to people, then just go and God will provide. So the crazy thing about Adelaide was I came back from Adelaide. On the way back, my windscreen got broken. It was like, and I'm like, oh, more money. And I was freaking out. And then I got back and then suddenly $3.5 grand just dropped into my account. I'm like, what is that? So the school that I was working at, I wasn't expecting it, but that was my leave entitlements. But I didn't know I was entitled to that. So it was almost like God said, hey, I mean, it was going to happen anyway, I guess, but it was, I felt like it was God's way of saying, hey, I'm going to bless you. He is a blessing. And so I feel like God's full of surprises like that. Like we sort of try and structure everything and predict everything and try and, you know, make things happen. But when you don't try and make things happen, you're just faithful and obedient, then I think greater things happen. So then from there I went to Cambodia, and as I said before, I was struggling with depression, anxiety. I was really anxious about silly things like, you know, money. But it says in the Bible, don't worry about anything. You know, great enough the concerns or worries for today. And, you know, God provides food for the birds, and He provides for everything. So why are we so worried about things? So I went to Cambodia. I got absolutely smashed in Singapore at a church called New Creation. And I went there as a joke because I was quite, I was a bit, what's the word? I guess I thought mega churches and stuff like that were kind of pretty funny. So again, preparing me for going to Planet Shakers. But I went there, and this little lady called Marilyn Hickey got up, and she just shared this message on grace. And I was like, man, I've been a Christian for so long, and I've been trying to play by all the rules and try and follow all the rules, and like whacking myself over the back if I did something wrong. You know, like self-flagellation. You know, like bad boy telling me you shouldn't have done that. You know. When I realised that the harder you try and follow the rules, the less likely you are to follow them. But if you're living under grace, is what she prayed and preached about. It's almost like she's looking straight in my eyes, like, Dylan, I'm talking right to you. But it was Holy Spirit doing it. So I walked out there going, wow, it doesn't matter what size the church is. God can get you wherever He needs you. It could be even sitting here in Taiwan, God can get you. So, and then I went to Cambodia, and again, I was just broken in half. Like, I have never struggled with depression like that since. I've never thought about taking my own life like that since. I've never been really, really anxious. Because in that moment, it's just like, I had to embrace the chaos of being somewhere like Cambodia and not being in control, which is so good. And then it's almost like all these little steps along the way have then led me to the point of, you know, going to a church like Planet Shakers, where there's a lot of people who are very business-minded, entrepreneurial, and I'm like, I don't have the right cymbals to play there. I had like the old school, big, loud, clangy cymbals, and I needed I needed bigger and less clangy. And fast forward, I just suddenly got this sense you need to start your own cymbal brand that's going to cater for people in churches, that it's going to be cheaper so people can access them instead of being super expensive. They'll still be really good. So then I'm like, that's madness. Like, I don't know anything about business. I don't even know where to start to find someone to make them for me in Turkey. And now I'm, you know, practically making some myself as well. I go to Turkey. So it's just simply, that came because I simply said, all right, Lord, I have no idea how to do this. but it was just taking a step each time that there was that sense of like, all right, let's do something. I would just be like, all right, let's do it. So it started really with, it was just like these light bulb moments of like, oh, you should ask Aaron, he's about to go to Music Mess in Germany, ask him to find you a cymbal maker from Turkey.
Wow.
And then it's not as easy as it sounds, not as simple as it sounds, but it was just that simple acts of obedience, and God just lined everything up.
Amazing.
So, and I don't really sell cymbals. I actually just go and hang out with drummers, and I take cymbals with me. The cymbals sell themselves and they support what I do. So being here in Taiwan, a business-minded person would be like, all right, you got to go and visit all the shops and get everyone to buy your cymbals. But I'm just like, I'm going to visit shops and just hang out and meet people.
Yeah.
And then in the right time, people will hear about the cymbals, and then away we go.
Yeah.
So, and God will provide by cymbal sales, or who knows. Yeah, it's the greatest thing. Just embrace the chaos and just be like, oh well, God will provide. God will make this happen.
So this is a kind of loaded question. So do you think embracing the chaos is one of the keys to getting out of depression?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And just being willing to kind of go, let's do something different. I mean, if you want to break depression in your life, don't do the same thing and expect a different result. Honestly, if you're depressed and you're sitting on your device, playing games or flicking through, reels and stuff like that, and you want to not be depressed, then you're not doing. I would suggest. I'm not going to say you're doing the wrong thing, but I would suggest do something really different.
Yeah.
And it might be go and play table tennis or ping pong. Honestly, I think that's been another key factor. It's silly stuff like that where you can't control really what the ball does, and it does weird stuff when you play table tennis. But that's the fun. It'll hit the net and just drop over sometimes, and you'll be like, wow! And that release of endorphins and dopamine is so good. So if you are struggling with depression and anxiety, just embrace the chaos of that and say, okay, I feel a bit sad, but I'm going to do something different. And even ask God, Lord, what can I do differently to change my outlook on life? What can I, Lord, please break that off me. And that's my prayer. If you're watching this and you struggle with depression, my prayer is that God would break that off you. And it's not as easy as just get over it, mate. Go to Bunnings, buy some hammer and nails, build a bridge, get over it. It's not that easy. I get that. But take little steps and be like, okay, I'm going to do something different. Maybe it's go outside and mow the lawn, or I don't know. Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely. Embrace the chaos, because you can't control the chaotic things going on around you. I can't control people standing behind me taking photos while we're trying to shoot a video. But you can just go, oh, well, hey, that's going to happen. We're here. You're driving down the road, you can't control people cutting you off or doing random things, but you can control your breathing, you can control your responses to things, and you can control how much you pray and read the Bible.
Yes. Yes.
You can be like, all right, I feel really bad today, I'm going to pray, and you can talk to God and just say, hey, Lord, I know you're listening. Please, this is all of the bad stuff that's in my life right now. I'm putting it in a little box, or maybe it's a big box, and I'm giving it to you, God, and you're in control of that now. I'm laying it down in front of the cross. And really, I do that every day when I start to get stressed about business. If there's no sales coming in, I'm like, Lord, you're the CEO. You are the CEO. Here's the business, Lord. I'm just going to give it back to you. I'm going to stop taking control. It might sound naive, but it works for me. It really takes the pressure off me.
That's so good. That's fantastic.
I need to make a t-shirt that embrace the chaos.
Yeah, I reckon. Oh, I just noticed that this is a red t-shirt as well with the kangaroo on it.
Kangaroo, yeah. I wear this in Turkey and other countries so people know I'm from Australia.
I'm actually wearing a red t-shirt too. You can't see it.
You got the cool one. You got the bling bling one. This one glows in the dark. So if I'm in the dark, you see a kangaroo jumping around.
That's great.
Love it.
Yeah, so we're loving our red cymbals at my church at Future Generation in Taiwan. But yeah, totally, when we got those cymbals, we had the kind of cymbals we had before, I can't even describe. They were basically like a tin can, but they were broken as well, and they sounded like a garbage can lid. It was just disgusting. But we got these cymbals, and man, just straight away, the whole atmosphere changed. So
Yeah.
I'm so grateful, for you, and you were so generous to us as well. So really, like, I think Red Cymbals really genuinely changed the atmosphere in worship, and
It's funny because I prayed over them and I sent them to you too.
yeah.
Not to be a like weirdo, super. I'm not trying to be super religious or anything.
No.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm sending them to churches, I'll put my hand on the cymbals and I pray over them. I pray that whoever plays them is blessed and whoever hears them is blessed. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
absolutely.
I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, and so now, like this weekend, we had this conference. We opened it up to other churches. So now more than just our church is being blessed. Other churches have been blessed, and we've recorded it, and we're hoping we'll put some videos out so even more people around the world can be blessed. And it's just a simple act of obedience from you, and this product is changing the atmosphere all over the world.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, I've got to ask you this question.
Yeah.
How many countries have you been to since doing Red Cymbals?
A lot more than I went to before, that's for sure. Well, Taiwan, Cambodia I've been to before, but Singapore, USA, New Zealand, Manila, the Philippines, Manila, Australia, obviously. Where else did I go? Turkey. Poland. I went to Turkey and then went to Poland. And then I went to Wales, Scotland, England. Well, that's United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Where else have I been? A lot. There's probably more, but I just can't remember.
Well, that's at least 12 countries.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, that is just amazing. Yeah. And how long has this company been in existence?
5 years. So we started.
Yeah,
I registered the business name I think in August 2018.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
5 years.
Yep.
And more than 12 countries.
But I'm not trying to travel. Like I'm certainly not using it as an excuse to travel.
No.
But it's more like going and meeting people face to face.
Yeah.
Letting them actually get their hands on the product and hit it and feel it. But even just that relationship of having a good laugh when you're playing the drums, and I often make mistakes on purpose. Well, that's what I'm going to tell you anyway. Just so and have a laugh about it, not take it too seriously.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is when you do something that you're passionate about, you're too serious about it.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed, it's almost like you're not allowed to
totally.
make mistakes,
Yes.
Sometimes
yes.
I just do over the barline drum fills just to have fun.
Yeah.
And make a mistake on purpose.
Yeah. All right. I think I've got to dig into this. I think we're gonna have to make a separate video for this. But I really want to talk about that as a songwriter because, like from my experience, I think my biggest problem, my biggest barrier to success when I was 20 was exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
I took myself too seriously. Like, this is my baby.
It's very personal too,
Yes.
right? You're very precious about it.
Yes. It was my one thing, and I was so precious about it. So it's like any kind of criticism, even if it was like positive, I would detect that tiny 1.1% of criticism from that comment, and I'd be like, and I'd be all depressed, and I'd be all down about myself, and feel like I couldn't go on.
Well, I read a study. I think it was on the ABC.
Yeah.
But it was a study that they'd done independently on mental health and musicians, and apparently, according to the study, musicians are 7 times more likely to struggle with a mental health condition than anybody. But it's because of rejection, late nights, stress, anxiety, worrying about perfection, trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I wrote a song called "Don't Pick on the Fat Kid," because
I
I was like,
song.
well, I was fat. I've always struggled with that, and I got sick of people saying, "Oh, big boy, fatso, whatever." So I wrote a stupid, like a silly, not stupid. Sorry, I wrote a silly song about "Don't Pick on the fat kid." But the weird thing is, it really encouraged a bunch of people, particularly who were of the larger girth. But it's funny, like I didn't even take that song seriously. I put every possible, like my sense of humor. I put every possible ounce of humor into it because I needed to disarm myself.
Yes.
Sometimes we're way too serious, and we're and it's like we're carrying around this gun loaded with seriousness. We're all tense and everything.
Yeah.
And then the only way to disarm yourself is literally take all the bullets out, and then you're left with, well, okay, it's just be yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's often why I make fun of myself or I'm telling jokes. And people think I'm a bit silly, but actually I'm super serious.
Yeah.
But then I decided that being super serious was not helpful.
Yep. That's great. Thanks so much, man.
That's all right. Which is why I love Cut the Crap. That song. Because it's just like, it just bangs.
I know, yeah. I love that song too. But I hope people aren't offended in a bad way.
Oh no, offended in a good way is good.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's being a singer-songwriter, it is really hard not to be precious about what you're doing. And it's really hard not to take it personally because you're often up the front.
Yeah.
And being a drummer, I find is easy because I can sit up the back.
Yeah, hide behind all those drums.
Yeah. Although then I realised that it's the loudest instrument. And if I make a mistake, everybody knows. But it's, as a songwriter, you just have to release stuff and just put it out there and do your very best. But practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better.
Yeah.
So the more you practice, the better you get. And if you're not getting better and you're getting worse, then maybe, I don't know, pray about it, give it to God and say, Lord, these are your songs. Do with them as you would wish to do with them. It seems like I'm constantly giving stuff away to God, but why would we hang on to something if we're human and God is all present, all knowing, all powerful? I mean, why wouldn't you want to give that stuff to him and say, hey Lord, do with this as you wish?
Yeah. Amen. Yep. It's always better to have it in the hands of the giver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll know what to do with it.
The author. That's right. Yep. Just like you would go back to a book and say, oh, what was the author's purpose in writing this book? I wouldn't go up to some random person on the street and say, hey, why did Tolkien write Lord of the Rings? I mean, they might have an opinion about it.
Yeah.
But if you were able to talk to Tolkien and say, hey, what was the purpose behind it? He could give you so much more, such a richer experience of the book.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I can add a bit of advice to what you've just said. I think if you're stuck as a singer-songwriter or as a musician, I think making friends with other musicians and other songwriters is a great idea.
Yeah, especially drummers because they're very on time. They're very timely. No. But yeah, relationship.
Yeah.
Don't hide away.
Yeah. So like, I'm super thankful. So the history of how we met was at this musicians' prayer breakfast that was run by this group called ACAN, the Australian Christian Artist Network, which existed back then. But this was, I think, their last event that they ever did.
Yeah.
But that event changed my life. And I can say that with absolute, confidence because that event I met Dylan. And at that event, I met one of my other good friends, Cindy, who I wrote Hope with. My life would not be the same if I had never met you or Cindy. Like, that event changed my life.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I really want to encourage you, if you are a songwriter or you're a musician or you feel like you have a deeper calling as a creative person who's a Christian, I really, really recommend that you find other people who are like-minded. And that's kind of partly why I've got this channel as well. It's like I'm hoping that it can be that kind of a community for people who are like us, You don't have to feel like you're all alone because I think we often do feel very isolated.
Yeah.
And that's just the devil, The devil wants us to feel like we're all alone, that nobody cares, and that's just a lie. There's heaps of us, and we're all going through the same thing. So anyway, I really want to encourage you. Get around some other Christian creative people, and be encouraged. Encourage each other. Do some collaborations. It's always fun.
And if you feel isolated, and you're like, oh, there's no community, instead of complaining about it, form one, make a community.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I remember complaining about the church I go to, which is like 45 minutes from my house. And I'm like, well, maybe we need to find something closer. You know, it's a really good church, but it's so far away, there's no community. And I've felt this like poking of like, well, why don't you form your own community in your town? And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Brilliant. Yeah.
Yes.
So if wherever you are, there will always be other musicians. It doesn't matter if they're beginners or if they're super expert professionals. Just build that sense of community and have conversations with people and try and be around people that are better than you, because then they push your level of experience and knowledge and understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Like when I went to Planet Shakers, I was just like, oh, this is amazing, because for like my whole life, I mean, I've been music directing since I was 15 years old, you know, and I've always been the best muso. And I'm not saying that to say that I'm awesome. It was just that compared to everyone else, maybe because I was driven about it, I was probably the most skilled musician in all those circles and all those churches. And so it meant that the bar was just me. And so
then you're hitting the ceiling.
Yeah,
all the time.
I was hitting the ceiling and I could never take it any further. And I didn't know how to upskill myself. I guess I wasn't that kind of self-motivated type person who could find a way to upskill myself. So I was just always stuck here, and I would get really dry and a bit kind of bitter about doing worship, because I'd be like, oh, you know, same old, same old. I went to Planet Shakers and I'm like,
oh yeah,
wow.
That lifted the bar considerably.
I'm like, these are world-class musicians. And I was like, oh, I feel really incompetent, you know, but I love that. I was so grateful for that experience. You know, I'm playing acoustic guitar in the Planet Shakers band, and you know, like people all around the world are watching this live stream, you know. It's like, whoa. But it was so awesome because, like, yeah, I felt like I had to lift my game. I had to get everything up to a more professional level. And I'm so super grateful. I'm so thankful to Pastor Sam, Josh, for, you know, everything that they showed me and poured into me in my time there. I wouldn't be the person that I am today, or the musician or the worshipper that I am today, if not for what I experienced at Planet Shakers. So
I agree.
I'm absolutely thankful to God for that experience.
Given me, I don't know about you, but it's given me a lot more confidence. I remember going there because we're in the Southeast campus. But that's not to devalue what was going on there, because that bar was still very high, which is great. But I remember teching on the drummers, I think probably teching for Andy, and just commenting to someone, Andy's so confident on the drums. And then I was like, oh, wait, that means that I'm not. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I was just like, I need to be more confident on the drums. Not competent, but I needed that too. But confident, even just to be able to just play really solidly and know my parts. And I would say that was the constant like drive for me, was to be more confident, to be better, to remember the parts. So it's funny because I come out of it now and I feel like I'm a lot more confident. I'm willing to just go with the flow and let Holy Spirit lead and not try and make something happen. So, letting the Spirit lead. Yes, totally. You know, that's something that I found really interesting about being in the Planet Shakers band, is that I think in the past, you know, before I was in Planet Shakers, I always thought, you know, having free worship, being able to do what Holy Spirit wanted you to do, it wasn't so much about your technical skills or your abilities. It was, you know, just go with the flow, you know. But, oh my goodness, being at Planet Shakers, I realised, actually, no, you have to have such good skills. Your skill level has to be so high in order to be able to go with the flow. Because if Holy Spirit goes, bam, I want this song, I don't know this song, but we're going to play it. But having the confidence and skill means you will be confident, just go, hey, I don't really know it, but I kind of get the gist. Like some of those guys, like Kevin, I would say, man, you must practice for hours. He's like, no, not really. I'm like, oh. But it's simply because he had practiced I mean, he was teaching in School of
Yeah,
Creative Arts,
yeah,
so he
yeah.
knew, but he knew his parts, and he didn't necessarily need to sit behind the kit to be able to play them well
Yeah.
until he got there, because he had the skill and had the knowledge
Yeah.
and the feel that I probably didn't have. So yeah, so yep, something I'm still working on. I guess, but it's good. We're always working on something. I'm sure Kevin, I'm sure Andy, I'm sure all those guys are still working on stuff.
Yeah, well, there's always, like, I mean, every new song you got to upskill, you know? Yeah. That's cool. So, yeah, I think, you know, encourage you to, you know, if you're a musician or a singer or a songwriter, you know, to work on upskilling always. You know, don't let yourself get stuck at a ceiling. Don't get stuck at a certain level. You know, there's always more we can learn. There's always people who are more competent and more skillful than us. And, you know, YouTube is full of them. So,
But it also taps into mental health too, in the sense that if you are in a rut and you're feeling depressed or you're feeling anxious about your playing or giving yourself a hard time, then get around other people that are better than you.
Yeah.
Upskill, look, I mean, there's so much stuff now. YouTube, there's heaps of stuff on even TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way to break out of it is just try something new.
Yeah.
Maybe try some jazz. Try something, a style of music you've never tried, because at the end of the day, even really high-end musicians are still learning stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll bet that they all have weaknesses they need to work on.
Yeah, yeah. There's no such thing as a perfect musician.
No.
And the ones that present themselves as perfect, do you know how many hours they practice a day? Like, talking about classical musicians, they practice maybe 5 hours is a short practice.
Wow.
5 to 7 hours a day, like, is normal for, and that's just for someone who plays in an orchestra, right? Like, they're not even a soloist.
Yeah.
Somebody, so my viola teacher used to work for the MSO, the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, you know, and like, he would tell me things like this, and I'm like, you're just like, you know, I mean, he was the front desk at the time, but you're just one of the players in this huge orchestra, and you have to practice 5 hours a day.
Yeah, keep their chops up, absolutely.
Yeah, but seriously, like, if you want to be at a good stand, you've got to put in the time, and you've got to practice. So, so yes, I encourage you to do that, and find some practice buddies if you find it hard to practice yourself.
or set some goals too. I mean, that again, that's really helpful. Like, you can get really anxious and you look at the big picture and you're like, oh, I can't do all this thing. So then break it down to, okay, what are some small little steps I can take to get, like, if you want to be at 20 and you're at 5, then work out what 6 look like, what a 7, 8, and etc. And then before you know it, suddenly you're at 20.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, oh, well, I want to get my level. I mean, that's just an arbitrary number. It's not a, you know, there's no like grade 20. But I mean, I remember Kevin saying that to me. He said, I feel like you're sitting at about an 8. This is what you need to get to a 10. I'm like, oh, great. And then he's like, but when you get to 10, we're going to raise it to 20. I'm like, oh, man.
That's so good.
But it's good to have that constant, well, let's keep changing, let's keep developing. Yeah. It's good, eh? I love it.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, it's been awesome having you, Dylan, on my YouTube channel.
Chat. What is it? Clara Chat TV.
The Things I Wish I Knew podcast.
Yeah, that's good.
So thanks so much. I don't have the words. I can't even get my words out. But I'm so thankful to God for your obedience, for doing the crazy thing and coming to Taiwan. Like, it still blows my mind that you're here. But God did something amazing because of your obedience. So I'm thankful, and I think all the people who came to the conference and who came to the concert over the weekend would be so blessed by you coming, and everyone who came to the drum shed as well.
That was so good.
Amazing.
Yeah. That was fun.
So I think you are a bundle of blessing, and I think everywhere you go, you bless people. So I'm so thankful that you came to bless us, and I hope God will continue to open heaps more doors for you wherever you go in the world.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
But it's not about me. It's the more blessed I am, the more I can bless other people. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Amen. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Awesome. And I hope hopefully we'll get to do another podcast at some point.
I'm sure I will come. I'll come back, but it'll have to be the same time of year. I think when it's,
Yeah,
when it's
when it's
cooler
nice
in Taiwan.
and cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, all good. I'll come anytime.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Dylan.
No
and
worries.
yeah, make sure you check out Red Cymbals and check out Dylan's YouTube channel as well. It's at Red Cymbals, right?
At Red Cymbals,
Yeah,
yeah.
at Red Cymbals.
Everything's
and,
at Red Cymbals.
Yeah, that's right. And he's on YouTube. He's on TikTok. He's on Instagram. Everything. So yeah, check it out. And yeah, if you want some great cymbals, he's the man to see. So thank you, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.